going to be a hot topic that we're talking about.
There we go.
I can't wait to get into it, listen to you guys kind of go on about it. I have very little to say, only because I don't think there's much to say from me on this, and I mean that because I have a very strong opinion about it. But we're going to talk about plate carriers and working out in your plate carrier, when not to, why not to.
Very perfect timing, applicable.
Winston doesn't unhook us here, like we're going to be good.
So I'm going to wear it for the conversation today.
Who's starting here? Is this going to be a debate or a discussion?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out, but I don't think it's
all
a
depends
debate.
on that guy.
Yeah,
right
this
there.
guy who's wearing a plate carrier during the podcast.
Go. Ready, set, go, Jake.
I bet you hook grip steering wheels too.
Oh, heck yeah. So my personal belief comes from me. It's my truth. I don't.
My truth. Strong start.
Yeah, I hate that statement. I don't tend to program. So obviously, I also on the side program for the tactical games. Completely separate is for the tactical games. And we in that sport we wear a plate carrier for competing. Okay. Again, caveat. If you want to get better at tactical games, that's a great program. What we're doing here is nothing to do with tactical games. It's very specific to law enforcement, military, as it relates to their specific job. But we wear a plate carrier in that sport for everything we do. No matter what we do, we wear a plate carrier. I don't tend to get that plate carrier often involved in the programming because I like the perspective of you get better at the movements without a plate carrier. Now, caveat, there are certain things that you should get used to with a plate carrier that is important when you wear it because it changes your center of mass and changes how you move. But as long as you can kind of understand that and work around that, as an example, like, hey, if I'm power cleaning and I'm wearing a plate carrier, it's a little bit different. Your bar's not going to rub along your body as much. As long as you understand and get around that, then I'm okay never really having you wear it again. Now, running's a little bit different. There's certain movements you probably need to wear it for a little bit more, but I don't program it that much. Partially because I wore so much during competing that I didn't really find a benefit from it for me personally.
So from the tactical space, here's what I would say that I most commonly see. Aaron can jump in here as well. So we'll see the whole train like you fight. So I go out on an operation in a plate carrier, so I need to lift in a plate carrier. Like straight up, I'm like, that is stupid. Like it just does not make sense to me, right? Then we'll turn around and we will generally, what we've started doing in our courses commonly, we push people and say, hey, does a professional athlete go into the gym and lift in a plate carrier? No. So Tom Brady,
pads.
That's what I'm saying. Tom Brady,
game gear.
A football player, does not go in and lift in shoulder pads and helmet, right? Just because like that's extra weight too, right? Like if we're going to play that game. No, they don't. We all know this. Okay, great. So it's literally what you said, though. From the tactical community, are you isolating a skill, get better at that skill, right, without the plate carrier, so you're actually maximizing performance. So if I'm working on speed, I'm sprinting, we don't need the plate carrier. Like, actually run fast, get faster, and then we'll turn around and we can add a plate carrier at some point if that is what you're needed for your job. And then at that time, it's refinement. We're not building our foundation with only a plate carrier.
You've just made another separate micro podcast to talk about, and that's like simple versus complex.
Yes, for sure.
It's legitimately a great conversation.
But the plate carrier, like this is the thing we see the most often, and it's not frequent, but it does generally happen in a class. I would say every fourth class or something like that. I just pulled a number out of my. I don't know actually how many.
25% of the time.
Sounds right. 25% of the time. We'll teach a class, right? We do all the human performance stuff. No one has come in and been like, I'm wearing my plate carrier today when we're doing all of our stuff. However, 25% of the time, someone comes to the shooting portion and they come out when we're starting to run around, work on the mechanics of movement, right? All those types of things. And someone will come in and they'll be like, hey man, I always wear a plate carrier whenever I'm on the range. And I'm like,
okay, but is that because I don't want to get shot and I don't have body armor? Or is it
valid point? No, that's not why.
Okay.
Why. Yeah, why? Yeah. And that is always my answer. Why? And they'll say, well, because I do it for my job. Okay. So we're training right now skills. I want you to understand the movement. Are you a good shooter already? Like, do you suck at shooting? Like, we have to isolate some of those variables. And I say, listen, just for today, I want you to hyper focus on the movement, what we're doing, because that plate carrier is going to change those mechanics and the dynamics of how you're learning the skills that we're trying to teach you. It's another variable, complex as you put it, right, that we're adding in. And so I have not had someone fight me to the point where like, no, I'm still going to do it. And I generally say, here's my why.
Mm-hmm.
After I ask them theirs, usually they answer whenever I say why.
Because they're fighting how they train.
Because I'm fighting how I train.
So I want to
or I'm training how I fight.
Yeah,
exactly.
Practicing how
and I say, okay, I appreciate that. Here's my why. Essentially what I said, we're learning a new skill, blah, blah, blah. So I would just ask for today, you don't. And so far, I've not had anybody challenge me on it. And generally those people, after, they're like, hey man, that was a good call.
Yeah.
I was really able to focus on the movement, what we were doing, without having the plate carrier obviously change the body dynamics.
It's like you're an expert or something.
Okay. No, I just think that the plate carrier is way overused. When I see a plate carrier being used as marketing in the gym, it is a money-making marketing scam that I would immediately, as I look at that company, I'm like, I need to think about this. I would directly, if I was a consumer, message and be like, why? And if that company can articulate at a very high level of why they're using a plate carrier in that workout, again, I'm not saying never. All you people that's like, oh, kit shakeout. Listen, I'll even tell you straight up, when we do testing in our courses, the kit shakeout, very real thing. We'll do it the 300-meter shuttle in their kit, and you see crap just flying out everywhere. That's a fine. I'm okay with that. Why? But if you are training versus if I need a kit shakeout, those are two separate things.
They are very
and
different.
You need to isolate what am I doing that day. And so we're all a kit shakeout. A kit shakeout is generally where guys will put all their gear on, they'll start running around and see like, is crap just falling around everywhere? Like, should I reposition things, et cetera, et cetera. And so again, it's more so I say an administrative thing, not so much a performance thing, I guess, to clarify. Mm-hmm. I'm just using it as an example, right? Again, if you're wearing a plate carrier when you're training, you need to be asking yourself why. And if someone's programming that for you, you also need to be saying, hey, why are you programming this for me?
Yeah,
do you want to?
I want to hear
and I would say,
so we've covered the tactical games perspective. More so, you're talking a lot of what you've been talking about is like training on the range.
Yep.
Obviously, you mentioned programming.
Yeah.
My take from it, cops are in plate carriers however long their shift is, every single shift, most of the time. Some guys get to take it off periodically. So why add the extra load whenever you're in that hour in the gym for lunch or whatever? If you work lunchtime, why put extra load on your body? I mean, you're not going to see, again, like he mentioned, Tom Brady's not out there working out with his shoulder pads on. He's not doing all these over specific lifts with his shoulder pads on to create like over acclimation. He's in there. He's taking that time to build those skills. And so that's kind of my perspective with it. In the programming side, you're already in the kit so much. Let's go in and take a load off of you, train really, really hard to a high level, very smart ways, train smart in the gym, and then we can put it on and then apply it later. Personally, how I program, you're getting in the kit maybe once, twice, an entire 5-week block. So that's maybe 3 to 4 times in a cycle. So, and it just depends. I add in a little bit on the deceleration just so you're getting used to that weight. Because like you mentioned, your center of gravity changes because you're in an extra poundage in your upper body.
It is important,
But it's not an always thing.
Yeah.
Very, very slight, small percentage of your training should be in that just to get used to, like you say, like if you're training power cleans, like tactical games or some sort of lift to get it around it, get used to how it feels. It's treat it like a skill session.
For me, the plate carrier will exacerbate, man, what a great word.
That is a great
exacerbate
word.
any things you are, if I'm not good at something by 1%, it'll exacerbate that and now I'll be 5% with it. Where do I specifically see this? Again, going back to me programming for TAC games, rope climbs. If you have a crappy clamp or a crappy J-hook or a Spanish wrap, however you climb a rope, and you do it body weight, you probably get away with it. It's probably like, I struggle, but like I'm not bad. If you put a weight plate carrier on, you suck. You will end up going 2 pulls up and sliding to the bottom and being like, I can't get up the rope. So it exacerbates. And I think it's important, like you said, of like, I'm not going to do it all the time. But every now and again, it's important to put weight on our body because it showcases things we are not good at and allows us to be like, oh, shoulda, woulda, coulda. I can fix that. I can bring that bar closer. I can have a better clamp. I can have a better decel.
Yeah.
And I can't even account for what your team training days are. Is your team requirement to wear a plate carrier? Because 1, maybe it's safety. 2, maybe it's just how you guys train. You got to do what your team decides to do. I can't control that. So I have to do what I can do on the backside of countering whatever you're getting in the actual training. Operations, on the job, whatever.
The controllables.
I have to control what I can control as best as I can in the gym so that they can do what they can do out on the field.
Yeah, so for me, we're going to look at plate carriers. You guys sort of I'm going to echo a little bit of what you just said, but there's a couple of the things that come up for me that I've noticed, particularly with the longer term officer or person that's been having to wear a plate carrier for a very long time. One, like, what do you need to do to get more comfortable in a plate carrier? I mean, let's be honest, plate carriers are not comfortable. Like, if you're wearing full kit, it's not comfortable. If you had an option, if you could go out without it, right, and still be as safe, right, and perform, what would you choose, to wear or not wear it, right? That's an obvious answer. It's rhetorical, right? So the second part is like, how do you make your body more comfortable wearing kit? You train, right? And so doing that...
This is a really good one, actually. I'm glad you said this. Keep going.
You train, right? And what do? You train the basic things. You train posture. You train strength. You train your body to perform, so that when you... And those things, what you're doing in terms of your strength training, your power training, your capacity training, or so you can express your level of fitness, right? Your ability. And if you do that, when you put on a plate carrier, will that be a variable in that fitness? Absolutely. Because you've now added the load, right? And there's restriction there and everything else. So
hopefully you built it in the gym unloaded.
If you're doing it smartly.
Exactly.
Right. And I see, and this is where you said that just like immediately cued me. I think back to my time in the military and just training in general. And it was like, hey, if you're going to ruck or you're going to wear a plate carrier, how do you do that? You just wear the plate carrier more, or you ruck. You just got to go put that weight on and just go. And it's like, you know, going through grad school through experience and education, it's like, no, you can train all those things unloaded to build a better foundation, so then you can perform at a higher level with that plate carrier, right? It's the training for the plate carrier, so you're actually progressing in a manner that makes sense, but it's efficient and is going to really increase the output.
I don't want to dip into another topic, but there's also this, okay, so I'm wearing a plate carrier, and what am I doing? Like, so am I doing exercises, right? Or am I moving, right? Sure. And so there's going to be a little crossover between both. But if I'm hinging, squatting, lunging, pushing, pulling, overhead pressing, those kinds of things, that plate carrier is going to limit me, right? But it's also going to put, you mentioned like your center of gravity is going to change and whatnot. But it's going to change your mechanics. And if you're wearing that thing all day long, most days, and because you have to, my bet is mechanically, you could probably be doing a better job, because it will alter your mechanics. And so training in there to get better mechanics, or to master the mechanics, which is what we've done within these training programs, is to make sure we're doing the very best job we can in the time, you know, in the efficiency that we're programmed in, and making sure everybody gets what they need, right? But also gets what they want at the same time. One of those things is to move better. And so I think I see a lot of people being limited in their movements, and then maybe exacerbating things that aren't good, particularly shoulder mechanics. Particularly shoulder mechanics. And by the way, if you already have some hip, low back, low thoracic type issues, or even mid thoracic type issues, throwing a plate carrier on only complicates this. So if I take it off, like overhead movement in particular, when we're going overhead, a lot of guys, particularly if they're wearing those plate carriers, carrying those heavy rifles, whatever else, they're already very limited in their overhead movement, right? And that plate carrier is not going to make that any better, right? And so then going into the gym and doing overhead movement with the plate carrier on, I think you're setting yourself for a long-term issues, right? And I know it because I've seen it. And so then when we take that plate carrier off, even going overhead is still a challenge. We have to untangle that sticky web. To the extent that sometimes we won't maybe even go to completely, directly overhead, because they don't have that ability to do it. So anyhow, the point being there is you guys stole a little thunder, but it's my opportunity to say, I think it gets way overdone.
And I was going to say, to round this out, we're not saying don't wear a plate carrier ever.
Didn't say that.
That's not what we're saying. We're saying train it appropriately. It can change mechanics. At the same time, it does change mechanics. So you do need to put it on at some point if that is part of your job and how you train. It has to be specific. So plate carriers are not bad.
So does the plate carrier. Absolutely. In terms of a fit.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Yeah, that's a whole different conversation. But plate carriers are not bad. Make sure that you're looking at why, that you're specific with how you train, and recognizing the whole train like you fight model, training for the fight is a better saying that we want to rock with. So anyway, plate carriers not bad. Let's not wear them all the time. Use them appropriately.